are here at the Viadrina conference on maybe future of Ukrainian studies, which is a perfect opportunity actually for all young scholars and also established ones to meet, actually to get connected. And I think that's also a good starting point to think about how Ukrainian studies could develop in the nearest future, and especially I guess the studies which are practiced already here at the Viadrina University in Frankfurt show us that interdisciplinary studies will be the one for the future, as we see it now with literary studies, history, and also political science one, which I hope will be also established in some other universities in Europe and also in Germany.
I think Ukrainian studies face a double challenge at the moment, because on the one hand there's a lot of interest in Ukraine and a need for expertise, but then on the other hand I think we are still in the phase of collecting a lot of empirical material, and so the challenge will be to I think to connect it with existing theories and broader concepts to make it available for a broader audience and not just for experts.
Well, that's the point of our conference these last 2 days in Viadrina, held at a very good time when Ukraine as a subject and as an object the investigation is becoming more interesting, more exciting, more global, more connected with global issues. And Ukraine isn't just interconnected, it's a progenitor, even a kind of cutting edge in some of those issues, like the role of cyber warfare or whatever, or the election of Zelensky. You know, Ukraine is out front in many ways, leading the world in this experimental election, choosing not just an outsider, but someone playing a part as someone else's TV character as president. So all of that is the subject matter, but also institutionally, Ukrainian studies is growing, not just North America where it used to be. So I'm Professor of Ukrainian Studies at University College London. I actually cover the whole of Eastern Europe, but I thought someone should have the job title of Ukrainian Studies at this time as a solidarity gesture. And there are other individual places and centres where Ukrainian studies is possible. At my own university, we teach history, contemporary politics, and my colleagues teach courses on contemporary Ukrainian literatures, plural, and Ukrainian language and culture. So it's not just me, even at my centre, University College London. It's growing, and the conference reflects that.
As I wrote in my essay, I do believe that Ukrainian studies should be more integrated into international scholarship, and the potential areas of cooperation as well as conflict should be examined not only from Ukrainian but also from international perspective, because Ukraine never existed in emptiness, in vacuum, and any social, political or economical phenomena that took place in Ukraine is somehow connected to the countries that surround it or communities that surround it. So I believe this has a very big potential in terms of research.
But as a sociologist, I would say that, and I can see there is need for this, to see a contemporary dimension. First of all, the responses to right-wing populism, and considering all revolutions which were discussed in a beautiful keynote on yesterday, we also have to consider the effects of the digital revolution, which is my personal research experience, and I really look forward to the development of different aspects of Ukrainian studies, and particularly research on the internet and social media. It's great to be here. I'm really grateful to the organizers. Thank you.
In in my opinion, it is important what was said by scholars not only once to denationalize Ukrainian history, so to include different narratives and also to broaden this understanding of Ukrainian historical and cultural space and to distance ourselves from the ethnic definition of Ukrainian nation. Also, this interdisciplinarity, of course, is important, so the combination of historical studies but also cultural sciences and social anthropology. And I also think that inclusivity is important, so reconsidering also the experiences of people with various ethnic, religious and racial, sexual backgrounds.
So, in my view, Ukrainian studies could be more comparative, more inclusive, and I see the perspective from below as more promising. I mean, when we are talking about Ukraine as a borderland, as a country in between, we are mostly using these big theories, such categories like Ukraine between East and West. So when, in my view, as a historian, it would be more helpful to pay more attention to individual cases of some people, some individuals, their life stories, crossing borders, changing their identities, and so in that way we will, to say, humanize Ukrainian studies as studies of borderland.
Something which could be added to Ukrainian studies would be, especially from history point of view, to research more in Soviet history, especially the everyday life Soviet history, because I feel it's also generally a trend to research this field, but it hasn't come up so often in a context with Ukraine, either by Ukrainian scholars or foreign scholars. So there could be much more research about like children history or technical or visual history of Ukraine.
I think that we should develop the international exchange in this sphere, exchange of ideas, maybe some expressions, because we have a lot of potential in this sphere. For example, it's research work of the Donbas Wöll conflict. Also, it's the problems of borders. It's problem of self-understanding as a nation, as a rather an old and young nation in new state. So I suppose we can improve the sphere, like in this conference, to cooperate with different countries, with another experience, how to solve some problems, or produce some new material or research works.
I think that the future of Ukrainian studies is after oral history, history of cities, the history of multicultural community in our country, because Ukraine is not only a mono-Ukrainian country, it is territory where lived Jews, Russians, Belarusians, Crimean Tatars. So as for me, the future is after this direction.
And I'm very happy about this conference today because it brought people from all around. Barbara Tönquist-Blöwe from Lund, Rory Finnin from Cambridge Ukraine Studies, Oleh from Harvard Ukraine Research Institute, and a lot of other. I can't name everybody here together at a real inspiring international conference. And I think what I myself did do already before at GWZO University to establish Ukraine studies as a transcultural field of with hybrid culture, where it is very interesting to bring different disciplines together. That is what we agree on, and I think it's very important to work on comparative literature, comparative entanglements, and gender studies. And I think within the last years, Ukraine studies became a really political topic. You must be engaged today if you do Middle and Eastern Europe. And Ukraine is not a country as such. Ukraine is the biggest country in Europe, and European values, what people in Ukraine are fighting today for, are our values. So it is Ukraine studies is for me not a niche sujet, but it is really the most important subject. And I think Ukraine literature, culture is so vivid today, also with popular culture, with Verka Serdyuchka, Ruslana Jamala, and all of these icons of pop culture that students are totally interesting. Serge Jardin, the best writer for me from a young generation. And of course, and that is a tragedy, Ukraine is a country of war, and we have to do something like war studies, what we agreed on this first conference.
That's very good that we can talk about this topic, especially here in this place on the German-Polish border, because that's a very good place where one can talk about the place, the meeting point of different cultures. And this is a very important topic also in the Ukrainian history, because Ukraine is a place of entangled history, but also a place of meeting of different cultures and influences. That's not the only division East-West or the division between the Russian and the West European influence spheres, but also the Ukrainian culture itself is a combination of different nations, nation histories, different cultures, and different societies that live together and lived together in Ukraine.
Hello, I'm Rory Finnin, founding director of the Cambridge Ukrainian Studies program. I'm here as part of the terrific conference Rethinking Ukraine that's hosted here at Viadrina. And I just am struck and inspired by very rich discussion that very generally seeks to change the game with respect to the study of Ukraine. Is thinking of new ways to approach the largest country within Europe, various initiatives between scholars, civil society actors, a great focus on incorporating colleagues from across Ukraine, from east to west, north and south. There is clearly momentum, a new energy in Ukrainian studies in Europe, and the program here at Viadrina is really driving that momentum. And we at Cambridge are extremely excited to continue working with colleagues here, because we feel as though the chance now to reshape Ukrainian studies, to attend to the very urgent issues that are emerging out of Ukraine, it all comes together for a very kind of special opportunity as scholars to rethink the field, to find new ways to promote the study of Ukrainian politics and society and history. I'm really pleased to be a part of it. Cambridge is pleased to be a part of it. So we look forward to continuing this collaboration for a long time to come.
I was really much looking forward to this conference, and I was attending all the lectures, and I'm really impressed by the scholars which came all the far way to our double town, and the content is really interesting. Even though I don't see myself so much as a scholar in an academic sense, but I get a lot of input and new ideas from this conference and from the lectures, as well as the comments and the questions.
So it's very important in our modern times to see different point of views in this area. So we can find professors, different research workers from all around the world, from Canada, for example, USA, it's United Kingdom, Ukraine, even Germany, of course. So it's rather interesting to see all these well-experienced people here and what they can say us about the point of view of official science and their own opinion?
It's very pleasant, and it's an honor for me to be here to get inspired by all these prominent people who work in the field of Ukrainian studies, and all of them I met the first time, and before I only had opportunities to read their articles. And I'm sure I feel it already now, although 2 more panels will follow that. It gives me lots of ideas about my personal master thesis that I have to work on soon, and it's also very productive in the meaning of establishing contacts with these scholars.
And as I'm now starting to build up Ukraine studies in Potsdam as well, I hope that we together here, Viadrina and University of Potsdam, will establish Ukraine studies in Brandenburg and also in Berlin. So there's Prisma Ukraine, Ukraina, where we already work together. And so people mostly first time after reunification of Germany met there from Berlin, Brandenburg institutions, and the plan is now to bring together the 2 Brandenburg University where Ukraine studies are possible, Potsdam and Viadrina, to do an international scene and really international good functioning working Ukraine studies program entangled into entire Europe, and that is our plan, and I hope that we will do a really good job. The first steps are brilliant, the conference was really good, and I'm really happy to be here again.
We've had a wonderful time, and it's not over yet, and it's been wonderful to talk to different colleagues from lots of places, lots of people whose books I've read but I've never met before, and we've barely scratched the surface of interesting things to talk about, so I hope it's the first of many. But it's been very exciting to talk in such an open way with such a range of people.
Yeah, I'm very happy that we met today in Frankfurt, actually the place with the first chair of, let's say, Ukrainian entangled history, which I hope will be a good starting point for further cooperation and enlargement actually of Ukrainian studies in Germany, but also in whole Europe maybe. This conference was very, very, very good for me, and I guess for all my friends and colleagues, because we had the opportunity to meet so many good scholars from abroad and from Germany, and just got connected. And I guess it's at a place, that couldn't be more like fitting to that, right on the border between Poland and Germany here in Słubice.
Well, I do enjoy it very much so far. I have met a lot of interesting people, and the discussions and lectures have been very thought-provoking and engaging, and I do love the city. I have never been in Frankfurt, Oder, or in Słubice, so it is also an interesting experience from a more, touristic point of view, so to say.
I'm very pleased to represent the Ukrainian Research Institute at Harvard University here at the conference about Ukrainian studies at the Viadrina University. And I think that initiatives such as this one are particularly important because they allow for scholars from different continents to meet each other and to exchange ideas and the research results in a setting that is intimate, but also allows for criticism, allows for discussion, and also offers other ways of interaction. From the perspective of Ukrainian studies in general, and especially from the Oleh Center for Ukrainian Studies in the United States, I believe that it's particularly important to allow people who work in different disciplines, but in the field of Ukrainian studies, to pool their resources, to bounce off their ideas in a setting such as this. We all benefit when we get to know each other's work. We all benefit when we can support each other in what we do, working in Ukrainian studies. And everyone benefits from the exchange of ideas that allows them to further improve on their work and to develop their research agenda.
That was very interesting that we could meet here also Ukrainian scholars and students who work and live in Germany. So special view of Ukrainian immigration or Ukrainian diaspora on the Ukrainian history or the Ukrainian studies today, which I found one of the most interesting aspects of our conference here.
Short and manageable, always good. Sometimes conferences are about 4 or 5 days and you get diminishing returns. But we've had a keynote lecture yesterday, but basically a single day, and we packed a lot in. Very interesting, very multidisciplinary, and bringing in scholars from a wide range of areas and countries as well, not just across disciplines. So a lot of cross-fertilization, which is always good.
For me, it's very nice impressions because here I met a lot of interesting persons. For example, Victoria Serda, Sergei Kelchik. I have read Sergei Kelchik's books when I was student. Now I'm PhD, and it's very nice to meet him here.
It's a great pleasure to come from Canada to participate in this conference, which shows to us that Ukrainian studies are developing in Europe as well. And the importance of Ukrainian studies is emphasized by the fact that people from various countries came together to speak very much in the same language, the language of critical reflection and of the importance of our field for the world, for the people in various countries, for the economic development, and most importantly, for the advancement of freedom and democracy. Because Ukraine is a test case now of these values, European values associated with the concept of the European Union, it is important that Ukrainian studies flourish in the countries especially that border on the former Soviet bloc, on the territories where the very concept of manipulating the popular votes, falsifying the elections was perfected. Ukraine thus is at the forefront of rebellion against this old order, with fixed elections, manipulated television, control over internet, all of these things that are so important in present-day world in our individual lives are being fought on the streets of Ukraine, being fought on social media, and they require serious attention of international experts. So being here on the border, which used to be an important political border following World War II, it is a shocking experience to actually cross it by walking across the bridge, not even really noticing where one country begins and the other ends. This is one of those things we would call European values, democratic values. Of course, it does not erase the difficulties and the tensions and the need to discuss the shared past of these European countries. And here, too, Ukraine can benefit from the European experience. So thus, in a way, Ukraine is helpful for Europe to find itself, to define what its values truly are and what is worth fighting for. But in the same way, in the Ukrainian transformation, which is currently underway, the European experience, especially in the economy, in the creation of transparent political system, and equal opportunity, market reforms, Europe serves as a guiding light for Ukraine. It's not for nothing, of course, that the most recent Ukrainian revolution started under the slogan of getting closer to Europe, of signing the association agreement with Europe. Europe does serve as a beacon. It serves as a metaphor, really, of the kind of better life people in Ukraine do imagine. So it is unimportant for Europe to reciprocate, to understand its debt, cultural and even political debt, to countries in the East, those that border on Russia with its authoritarian regime and the absence of opposition in the parliament and control over television. These countries are at the forefront of this struggle which runs through all of our borders, all of our streets and squares, not just the squares in Ukraine where rebellions and the popular revolutions take place. It was then a great pleasure to come here to see that a new center of Ukrainian studies is developing on the eastern border of Germany and on the location which is a symbolic one for the European Union, which it redefined the notion of what it means to have a border dividing two countries. And it would be great if we would destroy the walls and create a new concept of Ukraine actually being an equal partner of European countries in its struggle. Because the stereotypes live long lives. Stereotypes that can be traceable to very smart manipulation by some authoritarian regimes. And in order to deal with them, to engage with them effectively, one needs critical reflection and an international community. One needs the base of expertise, people who do literature, culture, mass media, not just the politics, not just the history. People who are able to look at the controversies of today through the lens of memory studies, through the lens of political sociology, but also post-colonial studies and critical analysis. All of these things come together at this conference, which was an extremely thought-provoking event, a very interesting one of the most interesting events I have attended in recent years, and definitely something, the forum which helped us advance our knowledge of Ukraine.